What happens when the world's two biggest superpowers stop looking out for everyone else? What if the Indo-Pacific, the region that decides who controls the trade routes and the military choke points of the future, stops being just a US-China story? That is exactly what is unfolding right now. While Washington and Beijing argue over who runs the table, India has quietly pulled a third chair. Prime Minister Modi is on a 6-day tour. Indonesia is done. Australia starts today. New Zealand is still ahead. It's not just 3 stops, it's a strategic map. A map that stretches from the Strait of Malacca to the South Pacific. But underneath it, one much bigger story. India is stepping into space, America is leaving behind, and space China has been trying to lock down. Let's break this down. The Trump administration has been quietly dismantling the very idea of the Indo-Pacific as a policy framework. The term itself has been getting phased out of American strategic vocabulary. At the same time, there's an open talk in Washington of a G2, a US-China condominium essentially splitting Asia into 2 spheres of influence between the 2 giants. For every country in the region that is not the US or China, that's terrifying. It means their futures get decided in a room they're not invited into. There's a term for the alternative circulating in strategic circles right now, G-2. Translation, the rest of Asia, building its own architecture without waiting for Washington's permission or Beijing's approval. India is positioning itself to lead that alternative. Start with Indonesia. This is the country sitting directly on the Malacca, Sunda and Lombok Straits, the arteries connecting the Indian and Pacific Oceans. Whoever holds influence here has leverage over a massive share of the world's shipping and energy flow. This was Modi's 4th visit to Indonesia and his first since the 2 countries upgraded ties to a comprehensive strategic partnership back in 2018. The visit produced defense deals on BrahMos and Astra missiles, cooperation on critical minerals like nickel, and an offer to jointly develop Sabang port near the mouth of the Malacca Strait. That is India building supply chain independence and maritime reach one relationship at a time instead of depending on routes China increasingly dominates. Now to Australia. Modi lands in Melbourne today for the Australia-India Annual Leaders Summit, hosted by Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. This is Modi's 3rd visit to Australia in a decade. Now rewind to 1998. Australia sanctioned India after its nuclear tests. Today, the 2 countries are Quad partners and the summit is expected to finalize a long-pending civilian uranium supply agreement. Australia holds close to 28% of world's known uranium reserves. A finalized deal would diversify India's nuclear fuel imports and reduce reliance on traditional suppliers like Russia. Talks in Melbourne will also cover critical minerals, cybersecurity, clean energy and supply chain resilience alongside an India-Australia CEOs forum focused on trade and investment. Both countries share the same worry: Beijing's military, intelligence and economic reach expanding into the Pacific. And separately, Australia is also signing a new security agreement with Fiji this week, part of a wider push to deepen its own Pacific security presence. The last stop on this tour is New Zealand, and the last time an Indian Prime Minister visited was 4 decades ago. Let that sink in. India basically had no active Pacific relationship worth the name, and China spent those decades building exactly that kind of presence across the Pacific Islands through infrastructure loans and port deals. Now India is trying to close that gap fast. A free trade agreement signed this April, one of the fastest India has ever negotiated, plus New Zealand's access into the Five Eyes intelligence network, giving India an indirect but real connection to that alliance. Put it together and here's the picture. China has spent 2 decades building economic and military leverage across the Indo-Pacific through infrastructure debt and naval expansion. The US, meanwhile, appears to be stepping back from parts of the framework it once built to counter that. India is moving into that space, not with debt trap infrastructure, but with defense partnerships, energy deals, trade agreements, and digital cooperation that do not come with the same strategic strings attached. That's a direct pitch to smaller Pacific and Indian Ocean nations tired of choosing between American pressure and Chinese debt. And this pattern does not stop at this one toe. Mirror it westward toward the Gulf and East Africa, and India increasingly looks like the connective tissue running across two oceans. Not a country stuck on the sidelines of the US-China rivalry, but one writing its own rules in the space both giants are leaving open. Indonesia gave India the gateway. Australia today gives it the anchor, backed by a uranium deal and deepening Quad cooperation. New Zealand, still ahead, gives it the Pacific Bridge, built on a fresh trade agreement and an indirect link to Five Eyes. The real story here is not three bilateral visits stitched together. It's India stepping into a vacuum left behind by two superpowers too busy negotiating with each other to notice who else is quietly rearranging the room.
If they had a nuclear weapon,
The old rules are breaking. Alliances are shifting.
Apologize again to the victims of the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein.
Wars are redrawing maps. Oil routes can shake economies overnight. One election in America can impact markets in Mumbai.
no tax on tips.
One move by China can alter the balance in Asia. One conflict in West Asia can hit every Indian household. This is no longer a distant story. This is our story. Your story. Because for the first time in decades, India is not watching from the sidelines. India is rising. India is negotiating. India is balancing rivals. India is building military strength. India is shaping trade routes. India is becoming central to the new global order. And yet, most global news is still told through someone else's lens. Washington's lens, Beijing's lens, London's lens. But where is India's lens? Where is the platform that explains the world from our perspective? Welcome to India's Axis, a new destination for geopolitics, strategy and power seen through India's eyes. From Neighborhood Watch to the biggest global stories that matter to you. Why tensions in the Taiwan Strait matter to India. How one move by China can affect India's security. What turmoil in Pakistan means for regional stability. How Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, and Bhutan shape India's neighborhood. Why oil choke points can hit your wallet. How wars abroad can reshape India's security. This is not noise. This is not shouting. This is not recycled headlines. This is sharp, intelligent storytelling. Daily explainers, war room analysis, strategic conversations. Because news is everywhere, but perspective is rare, and in the age of confusion, clarity is power. Axis is for the audience that wants more than headlines. The axis of global power is shifting. India is at the center of that shift. It's time the world was explained accordingly, to understand the world through India's strategic lens. Subscribe now.